I'm currently a parishioner at St. Margaret Mary's Church in Rogers Park. Me and my partner have been together 13 years. We adopted a little boy who's 3½. So we're now not just a couple, we're a family. I was a priest, Catholic priest for 17 years. There's some crossover. That's a longer story than I have time for tonight. But I'd be happy to share with anyone about that within time. I'm going to talk about something that's very fresh to me and still very emotional, so I'll try to keep it together here. But we buried a good friend of mine yesterday who was 34 years old. And the situation and why I find faith and my identity as a gay man so important, and my struggle as a Catholic so important. Catholic Church is very hostile to the gay community, just in general, certainly the institutional church. And so oftentimes it's a battle to be gay and to be church and to do things in the church. And so this funeral is a perfect example. It speaks to that. So a young Filipino man that I played volleyball with for many years. He's from the Detroit area. And so his mother came in from Detroit. He's been living here since he graduated from Loyola University. And his mother is a very traditional Catholic. So this whole experience, Filipino Catholic, we have been tiptoeing around. He was in intensive care for about 5 weeks before he died. And so there's been a lot of tiptoeing. There was a list to get into the hospital. Me and my partner didn't make the list. So we weren't able to go to the hospital. The list was partly about his protection and probably part of her fear, because when he first got in the hospital, there were a lot of people coming to the hospital. And she didn't know how to control that. So she controlled it with the list. Now, some of our dear gay couple friends were on the list, so not everyone was put on the list. But her nervousness started to show early in the process. She's the mom. And no matter how much it's been painful for us, she's still the mom. And it will be more painful for her than anyone else, which puts us in a very awkward position. But I was determined to find a balance. And so we organized on Sunday evening. I invited close friends of his to come. She came. We talked about pictures. The pictures got vetoed, so we couldn't put pictures up at the wake. But we put that together for the reception. So it came down. She had decided she wanted a Divine Mercy prayer at 3 o'clock and a rosary at 6 o'clock. And we planned a wake service for about 7:30 or 8. And so it kept getting closer, and around that time, a priest right here from Our Lady of Lourdes, who's one of my best friends from when I was a priest, was in charge of all the funeral services. And he's like, well, should we tell her that you're going to do this? I said, no, you're not going to tell her. We're going to do it. I'll be very appropriate. I'm not going to do anything to hurt her. But we calculated for 3 days. I went over this and over this again and again in my head. My presentation and my reflection on his life that I originally wanted to give had to be pulled back a bit. It was fairly the same, with minus a few props. Our friend was famous for his fans at the volleyball match, and not just like little fans, snappy fans that he's famous for. But my point was, how do you merge those two? Right before we were about ready to begin this service, out popped a manila envelope with a whole pack of litanies, Xerox, 6 pages of litany that she wanted to pray. Now, those of you who have no Catholic background, litanies can have all kinds of stuff in them, but Catholic litanies talk about, like, to free me from the fires of hell, and there's a lot of stuff in them. There's a lot of stuff in this litany. It's what she asked for. But we found a way to combine it. So I got up, song. Oh God, song is a good thing because it's very neutral. I got up with a song, began with that. And then I began to invite people that I had selected to just share some words and pray together. To try to merge those worlds together that seem so far apart. How do you merge those together without hurting one or the other? It's really, for me, what this is about. Why we don't give up our faith. Why we don't run away from it. And why we kind of battle in there. But for me, not to stand up and just condemn that. To just be mad at the mom. and say, how could she do this? But to always find a way to use our faith to bring us together. And so we were able to do that. It was a beautiful funeral. The music, eulogies, testimonies, Filipino songs. We capitalized on every possible thing. This is a hard story. At the end of the wake, she calls me over. We're in the room. You know, we put all the food together. You know, food day after day after day, Filipino, and we had to have a lot of food. And we were cleaning up, and she called me over. But she doesn't know, we've never met the mother. All we've heard is he always had challenges going home for some of these reasons. And she called me over, and she came and gave me a big hug. And then a few minutes later, we were packing up, ready to go. She came over to say goodbye. My 3.5-year-old son was there. We'd been very standoffish with her because she wasn't real warm and engaging. She's in rooms of gay men everywhere she's going. And she came and she said, give me a hug. So I leaned up and I said, no, 3.5-year-olds, you never know what they're going to do. I said, give Mrs. Serrano a big hug. And he jumped up and grabbed her and embraced her. And she had this smile on her face. It's worth it to battle those battles. Faith has the potential to unite us. It looks, from the Catholic world, it looks like they never come together. And it was a battle. 3 days for me of figuring, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? Am I going to do this? Am I not going to do this? Calculating with everyone after she left my house. How are we going to do this? But in the end, she may have not walked away changed, but she certainly didn't walk away like we didn't exist. She knew we were there. She knew how much we appreciated the opportunity to celebrate his life with her. It's a challenge. It's really, really hard sometimes. But I just think it's worth it. I just think it's worth it. I left the priesthood because I couldn't be a priest anymore. That was too hard. I could no longer represent the institution personally. But being Catholic and fighting for my faith and finding ways to link people who don't agree with me, I think is possible. I just do. I'm not convinced that it's not possible. There are some people who don't want to hear it. But even the most traditional people, if we do it well, will have trouble totally ignoring it and pushing us to the side. So this type of gathering and people who struggle with those two issues, which I know are really hard, I just think it's worth it. So I'm always glad to kind of jump in and see what we can do. So it's great to meet you.